Got it.
Woo! She says we're recording. Awesome. Okay, so we are here for our first Q&A for our Truth Tribers. We have had two sessions already that are more like prophetic and I don't know. It wasn't Q&A. It was more, I guess, prophetic and just inspiring, helping people. This is going to help people too. It's because it's Q&A. And I don't know about Megan and Journey to Truth. And I know Craig and I get questions all the freaking time in comments, in our inbox. Some of them are inappropriate. Some of them, are really good questions that should be, brought to attention. But if I sat around and answered questions all day, I'm sure you guys know the same. We would just be 24 hours a day answering questions. So to avoid that, we thought it would be fun just to do a private Q&A where you guys can actually ask the questions and we can do our best to answer. I wore my Yoda shirt today just to have a little extra wisdom on this.
That's not fair.
we definitely don't know it all, right? So we're not going to pretend to know it all. And also we're going to keep this positive. Like we're happy to ask questions, but we this is not going to be anything witch hunts or what do you think about this person or that person. Like this is just going to be really, we want to keep it clear with our karma and everybody here as well. And so yeah, I guess we'll just go ahead and start. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and start putting them in the comments here. And
if you want to speak as well, it just there is a function to put your hand up as well. So, and then we can just sort of acknowledge it.
Yes.
Just to keep a bit of order.
That's a great idea.
Also, yeah, I just wanted to say, obviously, one of the reasons why we're doing this is because, obviously we, Tyler and Aaron have a podcast. Megan's got her channel. Sharnael and I work on our channel. And I just think there's so many people out there who have their own stories, their own comments, their own insights. And we're a community, aren't we? And so everyone has a voice. And I just think it's a really good opportunity for us to come together and kind of talk through some of the things, because things are changing so drastically. And everyone's got questions, and again, we don't necessarily have the answers, but as a community we might be able to come together and sort of have a chat about stuff. So that's kind of one of my motivations behind it. I want to hear what you guys have got to say as well, because again, like Sharnael says, we don't know it all. So please do speak up, don't be afraid, don't be shy. Everyone's got a voice.
Actually, the proper way to say that was, we don't know anything. Yeah.
That's it. We pretend.
Yeah, and the other thing too is my main goal for the membership is not just so I can actually see who the people are commenting, because when we do our shows, I always see you guys' comments with just a name. And it's like, it's cool because I'll start recognizing, and I know you guys, Journey Truth and Megan, all of us, we have that where we see the same names over and over, but we haven't necessarily seen your face or know anything about you personally or have met you in person. And so this is a good way for us to see faces and connect with you on a different level as well. And for you guys to get to know each other, because I know you guys see the same names over and over again. And maybe this is a way where we can build some more community and where you have some new friends where you actually kind of know them in a way. So Sherry, I saw your hand was raised. Can you type your question in the chat for me, please? All right, so the first question, starting Journey of Truth. All right, got it ready. Honestly, I don't have any questions. Happy to be here. Oh, thanks, Victoria. Don't have any questions either.
I've just seen Journey to Truth question. Is Craig excited for the Dream Theater concert? A massive yes. I can't wait.
When is that?
Dream Theater concert?
It's 2 days before my birthday, the 17th of February. So I can't, yay.
Hey, your birthday's 5 days after mine.
Ah, there you go, you see.
12th. Yeah.
I saw your post.
Aquarius.
I saw your post on Facebook. That's why I asked.
Yeah, I was like, because obviously I missed it last time because I didn't know if they were going to be able to let me in without having the. So I didn't buy a ticket, but they're coming back round with it, so I'm really chuffed, really happy about that.
Awesome.
That's
well,
amazing.
One of the questions that I have received, and I know you guys have received it too, and it shows up on a lot of the comments, is the whole Inky Enel situation.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to start with that since everybody's being so effing shy.
I feel quiet too. Like I'm abnormally quiet. I don't know why. Maybe I'm picking up on the vibes of everyone else.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say 2 weeks ago, Sharnael and I did the same format and we did readings and it was awesome. Like after we popped off, I called Sharnael and it was just like such high vibes. So I like the format of seeing other people too. So I think maybe we'll get over the shyness and
That's it. That's the intention. We're a community. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's I agree. And I felt I cleaned like crazy. I had more energy that day than I have in like a month or so. I don't know. It was just obviously a good situation. I always pay attention to how I feel when I'm doing things. As far as Inky, this is all I'm going to say about this. The Rockwells worship Inky.
The who?
The Rockwells.
The
Rockefellers. Sorry, not the Rockwells. Not different. I'm thinking Christmas. Rockefellers worship Inky. Does everybody know who the Rockefellers are?
Yes.
Does anyone know anything about the Rockefellers?
Yep.
Is anyone confused about who the Rockefellers are? Does everybody know what they represent? So if they worship Inky, what would that mean to you?
Not good.
Okay, so are we clear?
Put it simply.
Does anyone have anything else that's a speaker that you want to add here?
I mean, go ahead, Megan.
Okay, I was gonna say, even regardless, I think just presenting any entity as like a god to worship or something to like give energy away from yourself, it doesn't promote the idea of sovereignty and reclaiming your freedom. It's the opposite, it's enslavement. So whether or not they actually worship Enki, it doesn't really matter who it is. It's like it's just an idea wearing a different costume, so to speak, to me.
Right. It's
exactly
essentially just another psyop that's manipulating you away from your intuition and tricking you into giving your power away to an external source, which, you know, the narrative that comes along with that is they can offer life extending technology and implants and things that actually go completely against the natural ascension process, because that stuff can happen naturally. We don't need anyone. We don't need anyone to help us with that. Like, it's already in our DNA. Obviously, there's been genetic modification and manipulation, and now our life expectancy is like 120 years max, but obviously that's going to change as we ascend anyway. So I think that's just a natural process. So we don't need anyone here to come and tell us that they're going to bring this technology to us so we can achieve those goals, because what does that do? It stops you from working on yourself, and now you're just waiting for what? Because what have we learned over the past few years about dates and promises that have been made, or whatever the case is? Like, none of it happens ever.
And the real power is yourself. Then what's it doing? It's causing you to give your power away to, like you said, any external. It doesn't matter if it actually is a good or bad entity. It's, if you're giving your power away, that's a bad thing. That's the opposite of sovereignty, like you said. So well, it's encouraging that, which is not good, no matter what. So thumbs up. Hey.
I put a post out just basically saying, like, what's all this about, and a guy who, you know, I've been friends with him on Facebook for a while. It was civil, it was fine. He responded back to me and just said, oh no, I've heard that is it Enki is coming back with the original human blueprint to help us, but he's not going to be our savior. And I just sort of questioned, I said, well, if he's coming with a blueprint, then he is coming to save us.
That's what that is.
Like,
yeah.
It's there. Like the natural process is like Tyler and Aaron have just said, is it's our choices and our sovereign will. We are choosing to ascend. And yes, there's many cosmic things going on that is helping us, you know, so where we are in the solar system, etc. But ultimately, it's our will, our choice. You know, we don't need anyone to come and do it for us. We get to join with the ones who are already in a high vibratory state. That's the way I view it.
I think that's why, like, what inspired us to do all those universal law shows, because a lot of the ideas that are rooted in deception violate universal law. So it's
Mhm.
always like it's your soul's choice to evolve or ascend, and all you need to do is make the intention, and then the universe works off intention, it will happen for you. So like genetics and technology aside, you have a soul, so you have the power to do that, like you were born with it, so you don't need to change it. And I think historically, like aliens have been interested in changing our DNA because they want power over the soul, not necessarily because, yes, the DNA, it might be helpful or beneficial to them, but really it's the power of the soul. So we're already born with souls, so we're good.
Well, and the reason, and there's also timelines. So there's different groups trying to push different timelines, and they each have a different agenda. Like the whole gray hybrid program, the grays have evolved into something where they need humans because they can't experience life in the way they once used to, let's just say. And so that whole hybrid program is to create a race that for a future timeline where they can thrive. And there's an agenda behind that. And then that's just one example. But when you have other, like whoever it is coming in to try and, pull some strings and mess with our genetics and our DNA, obviously they're trying to push a timeline where their race thrives. I'm sure there are groups out there that just care about us.
Well, and the cabal in general is trying to, like you said, they want us in the timeline where they're still in control and everything's AI and transhumanist and everything else. And you hear them talk, it's like a lot of them still believe we're going that route, but we're not. But
no, we're not.
But the less you give your power away, the less power they have, because they're manipulating us into creating the reality that they want. That's the whole game. And the sooner we wake up to that, and the sooner we wake up to our power, the sooner it's game over completely, and then we can create the reality we actually want rather than one that enslaves us. So we've been, for so long, we've been tricked into giving our power away to people that want to enslave us and feed off of us and use and abuse us. So like we've been tricked into creating the reality that they kind of like tell us to create, because we don't realize that's what's happening. We don't realize we have a choice.
Well, and that goes back to the timelines.
And that they're so few, and we're the 99.999%, like
right.
As soon as we wake up, it's game over. That's why they're freaking out right now. Yeah, and it goes back to timelines. Like they're trying to steer us onto that timeline, and they're freaking out because it's like now or never. They know that, so they're kind of throwing out every plan they've had for however many hundreds of years in the future, all at once.
Right.
All at the same time.
All at once. And then the whole, like, I like to look at like these timelines. So even when somebody has a technology that can look into a future, let's say like the Q operation or whatever it is, this quantum technology, I don't think the future is ever fully decided. So I think you can only look at the highest probable outcome. And you can, I don't know what the laws are, but you can probably try and steer or manipulate things to go that direction. But at the end of the day, ultimately, it can always change. And that's why I think so many people were let down with some of the Q drops and some of that stuff that really didn't seem to manifest. It was the highest probable timeline. And the only way they can achieve that probable timeline was even making that operation public to get the collective consciousness on that side, right? So it doesn't mean that things aren't progressing. It's just never going to look like, that's why none of these dates or anything that we get.
Things are always changing.
Yeah, it's always, and it's war. Things change in the fog of war. Literally by the second, you can hear a date and then a few minutes later, it won't be true anymore because it's constantly changing. And there's always a human factor. Like if everything's going according to plan, you're doing something wrong because that takes all the lessons out of it. I don't know. We can go on to the next question. I realize we're just having a conversation.
No, I just noticed that we've got a hand up as well.
Well, I'm going to go, if everybody could type the questions in, Lisa, I don't know if you typed it in, but I have a question, and Nat has one. It says, as far as quantum energy healing, we are 80% water. Water is impressionable healing and can take the place of quantum field, but do we still need physical modalities? Can you address this? So our body, yeah, it is water, and we do heal on our own. But the reason why we need modalities is not only because of DNA that we're born into that already has different programming in it, and or whether it's illnesses or just mindsets or what have you, but then there's also the resistance of all this shit that's in the water and in the food, and pretty much in the ground. There's wires everywhere, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So physical things can help clear some of the previous stuff in the DNA, as well as all the muck in the gut that we're being
Bombarded with.
subjected to constantly. Do any of you guys have anything to share more than that?
I was gonna say your body responds to thought too. So, and we talked about that when we did a show a few days ago, like the emotional body affects the physical body, and a lot of like your programming or your subconscious thoughts will manifest in physical illness and stuff like that. So, it's important to realize what you're thinking about, what you're telling yourself, how you talk to yourself. So, yeah.
Right. Well, I 100% agree with that. And I'm always saying that, and consciously trying to work on that all the time, is making those conscious daily decisions and break those toxic thought patterns, because that does keep you trapped and stagnant. And we always get to a situation where, sometimes, not always, but we end up playing the victim to our pain, and we have this narrative that we tell ourselves, in the story that we tell ourselves over and over, and that becomes a reality, and we don't even allow ourselves space to break free from that because of our thought forms. And that's why, like, even things like parasite cleanses are so important, because we've all heard the term parasitic thought form. Well, that's not just a term. A parasite can actually manipulate your thoughts. Stargate SG-1 proved that.
Yeah.
If you want to use that as proof, there was a whole episode on it, but it's true.
And I think there's entities that can attach to the parasite. Like,
right,
it's more than just a physical thing.
Yeah, but so it's not just about, like, yeah, I'm going to change my mind. It goes down to the physical body now. And you have to do that parasite cleanse, so you don't have those parasitic thought forms and those thoughts that aren't even yours. And then you have to get to a place where you know yourself so well, where you can identify when a thought is yours and when a thought is an invasive thought that was projected there from some other external source via technology, entity, or whatever the case, because they can do all of it. And it's very scary what they're capable of. They can park a drone outside of your house and give you a fake ET experience, abduction, whatever it is, and you wake up and you think it really happened. And that's where we have to really learn how to discern. And once we know ourselves, we know when it feels right and when it feels wrong. And you don't have to you're just not easily manipulated anymore once you're aware of who you are.
The more healed you are too.
Right.
It's huge. The less healed you are, the easier you are to manipulate.
Yes, good point.
And because I feel like there's a lot of people that are very unhealed, but they hear a lot of information in the spiritual community, like, oh, I just got to think positive and good, and then I'm going to create, but then they have all this trauma and unhealed stuff. And they're just recreating all of that because they're never doing the inner work, looking at their shit and healing it and forgiving people and all that stuff, because the unhealed wounds and traumas create these energetic blockages in their system, and which does manifest as diseases and these physical things. And that's why people that, as soon as they heal, a lot of their diseases will go away. Cancers have gone away,
Right.
because it's attached. The energetic manifests as the physical. It's not the other way around.
Right.
So that's almost like the most important thing, is to do the inner work, heal as much, and doesn't mean don't put pressure on yourself. Like, I have to be 100% healed immediately. It's a process, and give yourself
That's a good point.
grace in that.
Like, healing is always happening.
Right.
And I said this too, like, one time, I forget when, but I think the human race, we've been conditioned to confuse love with control. So a lot of times like, people are being controlled by unseen entities, and they're like, oh, they love me. Kind of like, we're going to give you the vaccine and it's for your safety and because we love you, that kind of thing.
Right.
I think like the more healed you are, the more in tune you are with the frequency of love, and then discernment and everything gets clearer. But we block ourselves with our own trauma from feeling those feelings because with the love comes all the pain too. And a lot of people, don't want to deal with the pain. So
Well,
Exactly.
and the pain is a perfect catalyst to grow and heal anyway. Like I feel like in some of the cases, like in particular for me, I've said this before, but like my lower back pain, let's just say for instance, maybe my higher self on some level, I agreed for that pain in this lifetime, because what it's doing is driving me to heal. It's motivating me to heal. And if it wasn't there, I might not be so inclined to pursue that path, that healing journey. So, and I feel like anyone's pain, like if you have like a term or what am I trying to say? Dang, what's the illness that you're stuck with? Whatever.
Chronic.
Chronic. Thank you. If you have a chronic illness or something, maybe that was placed there by you, by your higher self, to drive it's for your soul's evolution ultimately. And it's a challenge, it's a test. Hey, can I overcome this or not? And how many people are going to play victim to it, and how many people are going to beat it? And I think, if you look at it in terms of that, anything's possible.
I'm just going to say too, piggybacking on a couple of things you guys said. You mentioned the parasites. You guys have heard me talk about this before, but if you have physical parasites, that also puts out a vibe of you being a good victim for other people to do stuff to you. And your biofield just has code. There's a language from every cell and every organ. And so when you have, parasites also have their own frequency, which scrambles our own thoughts and then also scrambles the field. So you bring in not only chaos, but also just that victim energy. So people will submit to your lowest common denominator, not meaning to be like, oh, I'm going to go get Amber or Kathy or whoever, but it's just it's all unspoken, but it's all just like automated without even realizing people are doing it consciously. Same thing with I'm going to mention entities and heavy metals too. There's so much heavy metals, not only in food, but these vapes and like all this kind of stuff. There's just tons of stuff in the air, as you see. I mean, airplanes all over. So the more heavy metals we have, the more we're able to be controlled, because resistor, all the information that's coming in electronically works really well with heavy metals. And so there's a like amplification and or like a contact point for that information to come in through heavy metals. And so, doing detoxes with that is also very helpful. And then if you're participating in alcohol or spirits or recreational anything, you're basically giving license to entities, because those are all really low vibe frequencies. That entities are like 25 or lower. And so are all recreational things like alcohol and whatever, which 25 is dead, and all of those things are dead. And so they have legal access in the field, which is like a key to come to you, and you're giving that permission. So, again, everything that we do physically affects the spirit world and or the universe and what have you. So it all works together, and choices and free will are there. And also there's karma. So cause and effect. Someone is asking.
Well, real quick, I just want to throw this in there. We can't forget about past life trauma also, because sometimes like this lifetime in particular, I feel like a lot of people are learning about their past lives so they can break that generational curse and that trauma, so we don't pass it on to the next generation. So I think that's why past life regressions and everything are becoming so popular. It's making its way into the collective, so we can address that. And that's also playing a huge part of this whole cleanup process.
Awesome. That's a good point. And DNA has memory. So, all of us are picking up on all kinds of stuff, because everything from the whole world back is within us, within that DNA, where there's no separation. That's just an illusion. So of course we can pick up on anything from anybody else too, because every one of you are in me and vice versa. Sherry, I'm not sure I understand the question. It says, I would like to ask if the humanitarian programs I believe I am here to do is correct, or am I going down a different path? Can you explain that? Where is Sherry? Is she still on here? Did she go?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay, there she is.
Yeah, just I guess just it does. I'm thinking that I'm doing certain humanitarian programs, and I want to know that this is really what I'm supposed to be doing, or is it just another different road I'm supposed to go down?
How do you feel about it?
Depending on my day, I feel when I'm in high vibration, I feel good about it. And I had a crippling back surgery, so I keep my vibration as high as I can until the pain comes in. And then, of course, we all know what that means. So when I'm in high vibration, it feels like I'm in the right path.
Yeah, the only reason why I asked that is because for me, you know, it's a real thing where like it's making choices. What if I make the wrong choice? And like I tell my kids, just do what you love, do what you enjoy, do what ignites you, you know. And if what you're doing energizes you and you're happy, and I would say that's a clear indication that it's for you. But obviously, only you can decide that. Does that make sense?
I think that's more of a personal question more than a collective, but Craig, that's really good advice for sure. Of, we don't personally know your situation to give you that kind of advice, but that's a good overall way to kind of gauge. I don't know, Megan, if you guys are Journey Truth guys.
There's no right or wrong way to do anything. That's, so to get rid of all that thought process, and whether or not you think you're on a wrong path or the right path, it's still teaching you something if you allow it to, and you're still making progress. If you just, if constantly have that anxiety about whether you should or should not be doing it, you're not being present and you're not appreciating what it's teaching you in the moment. So that's just something else.
I was going to say, like, sometimes your minds, like our minds are, and even the ego minds, it's like trained to think and trained to protect us. And truthfully, like, it will never stop. Like, you can't really stop thinking, if that makes sense. So if you want to know if something resonates with you, it's like, how do you feel in your heart chakra, or trying to drop your consciousness into your heart. And if you can try and do that in meditation, you'll actually notice your mind's like telling a lot of stories. Like, we're excellent storytellers, what we should be doing or how our life should look. But it's totally the ego. So connecting with your heart and then knowing how it feels to you, and then being present in that moment and moving from that energy, that will help. Because if you ask your mind will give you like 10 different ways of why you shouldn't, and it won't work out. And it's not really going to come from a place of growth. It's going to come from a place of keeping you safe. And that's maybe why you feel uncomfortable when you're trying to grow or do something that's in alignment with your soul.
Right. Old Native Americans say the moment man started overthinking is where he went wrong. As soon as you
I need that on a mug.
Yeah. As soon as you go against your gut, because your
Sure.
gut tells you everything. Your gut tells you everything, and then you process that with your heart, and then your mind is more the analytical A to B, get it done.
The mind's supposed to be a servant to
Right.
those things, or the heart especially.
Exactly.
And society's got it flipped where everyone's trapped in their mind and not even in their, a lot of people like aren't even in their heart at all, or very little. So it's like, and the mainstream society we live in worships the ego, which is the mind. It's
Right.
all everything. Look at everything. It's all ego based. It's all fear based, ego, power, money, control, sex. It's like lower chakra, ego, mind, and it's all trying to keep you out of your heart space.
Yeah, that goes for like all information. Like, the deception is always in the mind, never in the heart. So yeah.
Right.
Thank you, everybody.
Practice.
Here's one from Dana. Best advice for those who are massive absorbers going through a difficult time. I've been praying, decreeing, breath work, feel stuck, haven't been sleeping well, gotten myself together this morning, and that's the only reason why I don't have my video on. Oh, wait, what? Dana? Oh, okay.
I get it.
So I have a lot to say about that, but go ahead, Craig.
No, absorbers, empaths. You know, I guess most of us here have empathic. We're here because we are empathic. You know, again, my wife can barely go in a supermarket, particularly through all the lockdowns and everything, just because the energy was so stressful. She hated it, you know. What advice can you give? I mean, I'd love to hear everyone else's thoughts. I mean, being rooted and grounded in yourself, in your own heart, like Megan's just said, is crucial. Yeah, there's a lot of energetic things going on at the moment, and has been for a good few years, and it's been horrible in many ways. It's been absolutely horrible, and you know, I think we've all been through it to some degree. Just like, what's the point in getting out of bed? And I'm fed up, and it was just being real and raw. Yeah.
Well,
And sorry, go on, Tyler. Jump
no,
in.
I just say it's about shifting your own frequency and learning how to do that, because
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, yeah.
right, if we're constantly, like, obviously you're highly empathic, and you're going to absorb the energy from the room as soon as you walk in,
Mhm.
and then you carry that with you, and it can ruin your day. And I know it's a problem, because I know a lot of healers and stuff. That's the first thing they have to do, is learn how to control that, because it consumes them. And sometimes when somebody's telling a story, they feel it and they see it and they start crying, and they take all that pain on themselves, and it's almost impossible to navigate your way through life. So the way I understand it is, like, obviously learning how to put up protection and have your own modalities that somehow either something in place to absorb that energy so you're not taking all of it on, or somehow just know how to turn yourself on and off when you need to. And it can be as simple as imagining some sort of a switch, and you know exactly when you can have that switch on or off. And I think it has a lot to do with frequency too, because when we're going around certain groups of people, if we're showing up like in our highest, like it'd be like an ET trying to come here, they can't be. They have to lower their vibration to so they can even phase into this reality.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way. If you're vibrating at a higher frequency and you want to go to the supermarket or somewhere like that, you have to almost shift into a different version of yourself, or lower your vibration so you can go into that room or that store.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you have to stay there. So it's actually like you can learn how to master that, and you don't have to. And by lowering your vibration to go be around those people or go into that room, you're, I guess, you're less susceptible to let that frequency affect your higher frequency, because you're already adjusted accordingly before you even went into the situation. If that makes sense, I don't know.
It does.
I'm gonna add to essential oils are really, really high frequency. And if you're going to adjust frequency, that's one of the quickest ways to do it, depending on what company you're using, and that's a whole different thing that we're going to talk about. I have a workshop coming up. I know some of you guys were asking about. So it does matter what kind you're using. Crystals also have frequency. Music has frequency. I mean, it's not, whatever. So adjusting frequency, he mentioned, that is huge in getting out of the current whatever. But as far as absorption, if we can imagine, like he mentioned, I had written down two things: frequency and imagination. To imagination or imagination, whatever you image becomes what goes out into the field. And so that's why, even like when I accidentally found out the cards had the same frequency as the crystal, I was blown away, because here I am packing up like a whole suitcase of crystals every time I would travel, and I only needed to bring this, and it did the same thing. And people, I think it was Annette who said, well, how does that work? I don't effing know. I just know that I tested it and it's the same. So, imagery, God's the one who made all this. I don't, who am I to decide why or how he did it, or she, whatever it, but imagery has just as much weight and frequency as this. And I found it accidentally because I needed a supplement, and I kept showing that I had a weakness and really needed this one supplement. And so Dr. Lucky had one in the office in the clinic, and when he gave it to me, he tested, like I held it in my hand, and when he tested me, it came up, my whole body wiped out. It went weak. And he kept saying, what the heck, because you need this. And then he went through each of the ingredients on the supplement, and he would test this ingredient, this ingredient, this ingredient, and everything came out clear. And he was like, is it the bottle? Is it the color? And everything came out fine. And finally, it said that the ingredients were made in Ecuador, right? And so when he just tested Ecuador and my body wiped out. So this supplement bottle was fine and everything, the contents in it were fine, but the word Ecuador is what wiped me out. And I wasn't able to take this supplement until I cleared Ecuador. Well, I had a near-death experience in Ecuador. There was a trauma attached to that word and the country that caused me to be weak just by the word. So if I hadn't known or tested and I started taking these supplements, I would have every day weakened my body without even knowing. And I didn't even take the supplement. I was just holding it in my hand at that point, and I was already testing weak. So I'm very uber, like, I labels like on my clothes. Like I even look when if I get my nails done, I'm like, what is the name of this nail polish? Like everything, because you know how they have fancy names and it'll be like Cougar Death or whatever nail polish or something is the name or whatever. I'm like, I'm not putting that on me or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So like everything means something and there's weight to it and you don't know how your body's going to respond. I had no idea. I still had an Ecuador situation. And so imagination, if you can picture yourself radiating light and igniting everyone that you contact, you won't be in the defense position. You'll be in the blazing, radiating self position. And if that's a mindset and a belief that you have, to be alive in it, to be alive in the imagination of I radiate everyone I contact with love, with truth, whatever, and that's what you believe, then you'll do it and you won't be in the, oh shit, I need to protect myself mode. So
Right.
What are you saying?
It comes down to intention. It's really setting the intention and understanding the power of your mind and what you're capable of. And obviously we're taught to not believe that we're capable of anything, and imagination is just imagination, but it's not. Imagination is reality. Your thoughts create your reality. And it's interesting you said like the wording, like there's that new popular water out that I see everywhere I go called Liquid Death.
I was just gonna say that.
Liquid
Death.
That's the name
Liquid
of it.
what?
Liquid Death.
Oh, it's
No way.
Yeah.
Well, what
It's
about Dave's death bread or something? There's like
Right,
bread.
Dave's Killer.
Dave's
Yeah.
Killer. I won't
Which
eat
is-
that. I'm like,
Which
what?
is
I'm not
supposedly
eating
a
that.
super
It's a
healthy
trap.
bread, but the name of it, yeah, exactly.
It's
Well,
a
that's-
trap. It's on
they-
purpose.
No way.
It's on purpose because it's restructuring that product. It's restructuring
Right.
the water, and that's been proven. Dr. Yamamoto and other studies have
Yep.
showed that you can restructure water. And there was my favorite one was 3 people set their intention in a location, and every glass of water that they set in that place or anything they put in that place, it restructured it, and it had it froze in symmetrical patterns. And they had set the intention there so much to where the people didn't even need to do it anymore because they had already set the intention for that space. So no matter what they set there, it was always restructuring automatically because that intention had already been set for that specific place. So you can literally reprogram your reality to automatically do that. So you don't have to consciously remember all the time either.
Now take that knowledge and look at what they're constantly pumping out there on the media, schools, like everything. It's all black magic. It's all to get us to program. It's programming us with all these negative things and fear and
Right. Well, they know that.
they know that.
works. That's
at
why
the top of the pyramid, at least they know that, and it's all intentional.
that's why they put it on the labels. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I'll structure myself for the whole day. I'll put like whatever card I pick for the day, and I'll stick it underneath my coffee in the morning or my water. And I'll say, thanks for this being in my field for the day. And I have that intention that I'm covered, like again, all day long. I don't have to sit there and think about it. And I can even say this week, blah, blah, blah. And then I know I'm covered for the week. It's very simple, and it's just, we have this already.
It's simple, but remembering is completely different because that's something I even still have trouble. Like, I know all of this stuff, but then I will just unconsciously go grab something and I'll forget to set the intention or do that exactly. And I have to catch myself. And then you need to catch yourself enough to where it becomes your new baseline. It becomes automatic.
I'll even drink, like I was having hot flashes. I know this is personal. I don't want to be all like, it's a female group and whatever, but so I was
Cheers,
like,
guys.
Mostly.
thank you so much. I'm programming my water to balance all my hormones for the rest of the week, blank. And I just drink it. And, or if you need an answer, then just cognitively believe I'm going to have the answer for blank, blank, blank by the time I finish this water. I'm going to program the answer in here. Thank you. I already get my answer. I'm clear and I'm drinking it. And you'd be surprised. You can set your alarm clock that way. You could say, I am setting my alarm clock to wake me up in the morning at 8 o'clock before my real actual alarm clock goes on or whatever. And you'll wake up. I mean, it's just, we're very, very powerful.
Like Kramer and Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I knew you were thinking
Yeah.
that too. Yeah.
Like what?
There's an episode of Seinfeld where Kramer does that.
Oh,
He-
really?
He goes, oh, I'm gonna set my mental alarm clock. He's like,
Yeah.
done.
Oh, I love it.
Except he doesn't
I've seen
actually
all of
wake
them, and
up.
I don't remember that one, but okay, cool.
There's one last thing I want to say though, like through trauma in childhood, people like we have absorbed subconscious limiting beliefs about ourselves. So a
Mhm.
lot of sensitive, empathic people were taught to believe that other people's problems or other people's energy is their energy, or that they're responsible for other people's energy. So like the scapegoat or the fall guy or the black sheep of the family, that is
That
like
is
the
such good-
programming
Mhm.
behind that. And so, and it's usually the most empathic child in the family. So, and then you'll recreate that in your adult family life and so on and so forth. So just undoing that limiting belief, and then it's very easy to, you know, push other people's energy away and just stay in your own vibe.
Right. And I feel it's just funny, the star seeds, the kids coming in now, though, they have a different mindset.
Yeah.
We just did an episode of this. My 9-year-old nephew, I was joking with him yesterday. I said, are you bringing anything to Thanksgiving? And he said no. And I said, oh, they're going to be mad if you don't bring anything. I was just messing with him. He goes, that's not my problem. And
I
like,
love it.
that was his immediate response. Like, so what? That's not my problem. It's
I
their
love
problem.
that.
Yeah.
You know, no one taught him that. It's just innately.
President of the future.
Oh my God. Can he like infuse my water?
Yeah.
That's so good. Like I don't
Right.
care. I don't give a shit water. Boom.
Yeah.
Like, let's
Yeah.
make that.
There's a brand you
Cheers,
should release
everybody.
it.
Cheers. Who wants that? Let's put that in here right
Yeah.
now. Oh,
Get rid of death water and have I don't give a crap water.
that's
Right.
so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
We should do one intention. Like, what's one we could do before we end? Well, I mean, we're not stopping yet, but we'll have to think about that. And
Put it in the
that,
chat if you have an idea.
create
yes, I want to see
sovereign-
what we can leave on whenever we get there. But and that is asking, can you explain the timeline and what exactly is that? Can they exist simultaneously? Woo-wee.
Wow.
This is my favorite
Okay.
topic.
Someone said, I don't understand timelines either. Dana, thank you for adding this. I don't understand it either. Thanks for reminding me. Yay, so good. Okay, let's do it. Go for it, guys.
So
Who
for
would-
me, like,
Go ahead.
because like for me, how I think of it is all of us are present here. Like the only actual time that exists is right now,
Yeah.
because we give life to the timeline. Time isn't really real.
Yes.
So like our souls are giving life to this experience, and then time is like kind of on the outside, if that makes sense. So I don't even necessarily like, I know people have to use the label like past lives or future lives, but like from my perspective, the only life is actually right now, because this is the like pinnacle of creation is in the moment. So, and then for like timeline technology, from my understanding, it's like a math equation, but it's probabilities, or it's looking into the future of probable outcomes based on where we're at right now. And then that's how they can predict a timeline or the future. So that's how I kind of,
Yeah, I'll
in a
take it.
simple, simplistic way.
I'll take it a step further though. And I know what you're saying, like past lives don't exist. Can someone mute their,
Because time doesn't exist ultimately.
I hear like a radio or something.
I got it.
Yeah, so reincarnation doesn't exist because time doesn't exist. So if everything's happening simultaneously, it's that
I mean, it does and it
it,
doesn't.
it doesn't, it
It's-
doesn't.
But it's ultimately an illusion because that's
Yeah.
all the now is all there is.
I'm saying it's
Yeah.
just the concept, right?
Yeah.
But I do think like I said earlier, we create our own timelines by our decisions, and you can actually consciously create a positive timeline or unconsciously choose a lower timeline by not consciously making decisions. So if you're just looping the same patterns over and over every day, even though you might seem like you're gliding through life, you're not actually going anywhere. You're not actually evolving because you're unconsciously choosing that lower timeline every day because you're not challenging yourself. You're not breaking free from your comfort zone. You're not taking that leap. And those conscious decisions are what create the positive timeline that everybody's looking for right now. Everyone is looking for that aha moment or that revelation or that opportunity or whatever it is, but it's never going to happen if you're just unconsciously going through life. And so that's like one way to choose to talk about timelines. And like Dolores Cannon says, for every decision that you make, for every decision that you don't make, there's another version of you that carries on that other decision and eventually phases out. However that works, I don't know, but I think that's where we get into like infinite realities or parallel realities and stuff like that, which I do believe is a very real thing. But at the same time, like we're trying to understand and wrap your head around all that only adds to the confusion. And it's all about being present. Like it's good to be aware about all that stuff, but ultimately at the end of the day, what's helped me most is just learning how to be present. Even like the definition of anxiety is worrying about the future.
Yeah.
Well, if you're worried about the future, you're already putting yourself on a negative timeline.
You're creating
yeah
the future you're worried about, which is the irony of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot to think about there. And like, yeah, I do think the part of the question was, are there multiple timelines playing out at once? Now, if we take that into a larger scale, yeah, I think so. I think there are different groups with different agendas, all
Mhm.
pushing different information to create their timeline, right? And we can call it like wishful thinking timelines. Everybody knows what they want to create that's going to benefit them. It's ego and greed ultimately at the end of the day, if these people have to manipulate the society into tricking them into doing what they want them to do, like Aaron said earlier. So I think there's like this war going on. It's like this temporal war, this timeline war, and everybody right now is fighting for their timeline. And I think Matthew Morning said like he would guesstimate that there's like 5 real potential main timelines that could play out right now. And that's what we're seeing. And that's why it looks so confusing. That's why one person gets information that this is happening, and then another group, it's completely contradicts that. Or, the reptilians and the grays are gone, but then people over here are still getting attacked by reptilians and grays. So it's just,
or it's going to take like hundreds and hundreds of years until anything happens at all. Yeah. Some people are saying that.
So I think you have like a bunch of people fighting over their timeline, pushing their agenda to create a timeline that they want that benefits them. But at the end of the day, there's like the timeline 1 and timeline 2, ascension or not. And I think ultimately we're on the ascension timeline. And now it's just a matter of different groups trying to take advantage of that during the process. But that's where this whole path of self-discovery comes in. So you can steer it yourself and you don't have to follow what everyone else is doing.
I think too, like we're all like maybe not consciously, but truly, like when you move out of the ego, we're all have the intention or enough people incarnated here to create and manifest the positive timeline. It's just the like how fast we're going to do it, because how fast can we consciously do it, And one way I do know they mess up the timelines, or the deep state will try to like mess up plans, is by killing people, because you're removing that energy frequency from the math equation, and then events like have to be rearranged. So I know that they like mess things up that way. And it kind of goes to show like the good guys, nothing is perfect. It's like a probability, right? And we live in a free will universe where things can still get messed up. And past lives, I think like a lot of people tend to focus on the experience, or like, for example, I was like a queen, or I was like a goddess, or I was this or that in a past life, when really it's not the story that was told about you. It's like the frequency behind it, or the energy behind it that was you, and the knowledge that you absorbed from that experience. You're still that, if that makes sense. That's how I mean, it could like get really complicated and like philosophical, but
Well,
Yeah.
you can, and that's a really interesting thing because so many people, different people, claim to have had a past life regression that said that they were King Arthur or whoever it was, somebody, and it's like not
Millions of people are
not
all the
every-
same person, apparently.
Yeah, and somebody I know had a great theory on that. They said that, like, what if that is a blueprint that's put into the collective consciousness when you incarnate on Earth? So subconsciously you have that information to help you be a human and fit into the template here that's been given to
Yes,
us.
I've heard that
So
before.
whenever you're doing these past life regressions, you're tapping in to a past life that's already programmed into the blueprint. So it's really hard to wrap your head around. I understand, but that's why it would make sense why so many people claim that they're Queen or King Louis or whatever, and it's like, it doesn't matter who it was. It not everyone could have been that person in a past life.
Right.
I don't know if Dolores Cannon said that, but it was something in regards to starseeds or people who came from different planets. They're given memories or like a template, like you said, so that they can function on Earth.
I
And so
didn't
that
know
they
that.
kind
Yeah.
of have like an idea of like how to like collectively or like energetically of how things work here. So we
Yeah.
wouldn't have to learn all over again.
She did talk about that.
Did
It was a specific star system. I can't remember which one, Alpha Centauri or something like that. That she said all the souls that have never, not just been human, but never even been incarnated on Earth at all, have to go there first to like basically train to be able to incarnate here because it's so different than what anything they've experienced.
That's what Sherry Divban just said on our last show.
Or was that Sherry Divban?
Well, she said, because she
Maybe
works
I'm
with
picking
with the children's higher selves, and she said that the information that's coming through, like most of the star seeds coming in, all come from Alpha Centauri because
That's it.
they have to go through training there to learn how to become a human. And like what would be up to 150 of our Earth years, this is how long some of this training takes place before they actually incarnate, so they can come here and fit in. Obviously, I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know if that's true, but it's interesting to.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Though. Yeah.
Well, and I'm studying about words because we had Stellar Fairborn on, and she had recommended this book called God Spells, which I'll have to find it and I'll post it and then you guys can check it out. But the word world actually is similar to whirl on purpose. Because I have my experience, you guys all have your individual experience, and then there's the collective experience. And so like, as far as timelines, like a real live example would be, if there's 3% of the population that believes that the whole transgender program is like, yay, let's do this, but then they project that on every social media and all the entertainment and all the other stuff, which entertainment and entrainment, same word again, very similar as far as the way it sounds and frequency, then the collective can have that image, oh, well, this is real when it's not real. And then the timeline can change because now you have a collective kind of false projection that everyone, and you put that into politics, put that into all the things of who's going to be the next president, even with Joe in that situation, like they tried to create that he was the president, even though he wasn't even president yet. And, put him with all those Jeeps that they just got off the car lot with all their little tags and did their little like rally or whatever and made this big, thing like it was happening. And it was like, this is all fake. But
Fake AF.
if you weren't aware, then you thought it was real and you'd be like, oh, well, this is the timeline. We need to get on board and this is happening. And, I'm trying to watch what show. There's a show. I don't know if you guys are watching the Game of Thrones thing, the dragon one, where they just now like so-and-so was supposed to be the next king, but in this other kingdom, someone else stepped up and called themselves king and had this big projection, invited the whole, all the citizens to come, and they did this big presentation. And I'm like, oh my God, they literally they did that in real life a few years
Mhm.
ago, and they're doing it on the movies now. So when the real king was supposed to be the king, you know, they were like, we're just letting you know that down the road, so-and-so just decided that he's king. And she's like, what? And they're like, yeah, they invited everybody, the whole, you know, everybody went. So everyone's on board now and you're not king now. And it's like, they're literally doing this and they're showing us.
They're-
So
Yeah.
I stopped watching that because it was like even in the first scene, it was like incest already. I was like, no, I can't.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah, I
can't,
don't.
stuff like
I've
that.
never watched that show.
That show, yeah.
anyway,
It's
So-
true though that the whole inauguration, everything, it's all part of the illusion. It's literally a
Mhm.
movie. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an actual movie, and that's why always just don't give your power away to that. But
Lady Gaga was wearing the same outfit that they wore in the Hunger Games.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She's saying
Yeah.
at the inauguration. I don't know if
100%.
anyone knows that, but crazy.
I actually heard that with the inauguration, the footage in the States, like, you know, people that were there had certain color shoes. The footage in the UK, they had different color shoes on.
Yeah.
And apparently they've
Mhm.
proven that now. So it's like we weren't getting the same thing you were seeing. That obviously, I don't know what was going on, but
right, and it was a cloudy day when it was
Different
that's
weather.
right.
the weather.
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
match.
So-
There was all kinds of things.
And then
Yeah.
there was like people that would show up in certain camera angles that wouldn't be in
What
other
if,
camera angles.
like the moon, like even the moon thing, like someone actually did go to the moon, but they faked all that stuff. And that's true too.
Yeah.
So we're all like just going
They showed the
on
fake footage, even though they actually went.
9/11, like
Mhm.
all of these
Yeah.
things that, I mean, was there really something that happened? Yes. But I mean, think about the January 6th situation, which I probably shouldn't. Okay. If this goes live, never mind. But you know, there's one
Yeah.
narrative that's projected and it's like,
Mhm.
are you kidding me? That isn't what
But the
happened.
people that were actually there, they're like, no.
That's not what happened. That's it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, but they try to use the media to create
And-
a world timeline
and-
or a rural
Right.
timeline.
Mhm.
And they straight up lied. They straight up lied and said they killed police and
Yeah.
they did all these things that factually did not happen, but they kept repeating the lies over and over, and all these, and people just believed.
And
Yeah.
The
kids
lies,
growing up,
like I
you
said.
know, in a decade, will see that in history books as real. And it's like, but we
Exactly.
all know who were there that it wasn't. So
Mhm.
that's an example of like how they try to change it and how things can be changed really fast through that.
Reminds me of the Mandela effect.
Yes.
And I watched y'all's show and I remembered almost like a lot, like 80% of the stuff differently than all of you.
Yeah, I mean,
know
it's
why.
because
It
you're
was
from
weird.
you're from a different timeline.
Different timeline.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess
Mandela
so.
effect's real. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Mandy Burns has a
crazy.
question. How high on the scale of consciousness does one have to see aliens? And what I was thinking over 400. So it depends
high.
on what kind of aliens. Aliens just means messenger. So most entities are 25 and below, but depending on what kind of messenger is coming along will depend on the scalar waves. Anybody else have a chance, have a thing to
Well, you're right. It depends on the person, the being that you're trying to communicate with. Everyone's at a different frequency, and it's. I don't know if there's a standard for it. I think it's specific to the individual also, and I'm not really in communication. Megan might be able to answer that better.
I mean, I think there's a misconception that like if you're a contactee that you're spiritually evolved. And I say that just because there's so like the universe is so big. So you could have had, lots of different groups are interested in humans for different reasons. But I mean, if it's a good ET, usually they're part of your star family and they don't necessarily require you to be super evolved in your thinking, if that makes sense. Like
Right.
the contact will help you evolve into a better person, but they're not necessarily like have requirements of who, like how you think or what your vibration is necessarily. It's just a connection on love, basically. So
That's a fantastic point. The misconception of a contactee being spiritually evolved.
Mhm.
That's very true, and people always put those two together. So they automatically give their power away to these people who have had contact with other races or whatever the case is, because they just assume that, oh wow, they must be at this frequency already, which might not be the case. It might be specific to their contract, their mission, their path. and it might not have anything to do with their spiritual evolution. We see the same thing with a lot of the SSP people. What I've noticed over the years, a lot of these guys, you know, they have these incredible memories of all their life on another planet and in the 20 and back and all this stuff. And they go on all these shows and people think they have all the answers, but then when you get to know them off camera, it's like this person isn't on any sort of a spiritual path at all, a spiritual journey at all. And in fact, it's quite the opposite. And you know, people are giving their power away because we're so enamored by information. I know I'm getting off subject a little bit, but it is a very much a misconception that just because someone is a public figure or an influencer that they're already spiritually evolved. And I'm here to tell you that's not true, because I know I have tons of work to do. So
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I think
too,
it's like from like religious programming too, like we tend to view like subconsciously priests or like pastors because that's their role, or like they chose that role, or they chose to be a public contactee or whatever, that they have all the answers, or they're like anointed by God. Like I like this saying, like, I'm not chosen, like I choose to do this, because if you have something telling you that you're chosen, then that implies that you are not choosing yourself and violates the law of free will. So
Right.
so yeah, I think like alien contact, it's not necessarily if someone has contact, it doesn't necessarily mean they're here or they're here. It's just like a unique experience to them, basically.
right. That's true. And when we get emails for people trying to come on the show, guaranteed you're not coming on the show when you say you were chosen by this race.
When we get those.
Yeah,
it's
we do
really
get
funny.
those.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
I'm no disrespect to anybody, because some, you know, people are easily tricked and sometimes it's not their fault, but you just
But-
nailed it on the head.
And
Megan.
sometimes the ego, you're just like, wow, these people, like,
I was gonna get into that. Yeah, go on, Sharnael. Sorry.
I think too, people are programmed that more is better, or that if it's popular, that means it must be good. So people really do look at like, how many followers does this person have, and how many comments or whatever. And if they have more, it must be better, when we all know that, you know, if you look at even scripture, which I don't look at scripture as like anything but quantum physics, there is some truth to it. It's like the path of the narrow road is actually the right one. You know, it's like the
Right.
majority isn't usually always good. You know, it's the smaller groups that usually have the insight. And, you know, maybe that's a program too, but I'm just saying not to be caught up in that trap of, oh, well, this person has more people, so I'll go with that automatically, instead of looking at how they treat people. You know, what's
Right.
their integrity? Do they pay their bills? Like, how are they kind to people? Like, what are what is their essence when they're in person or when they're live? I mean, what Tyler said, I was a speaker for 17 years at conferences, and I would literally look up to a lot of the people who were speaking with me. And if I was invited to a conference, and I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be with, I'm not going to name names or whatever. Craig would know a lot of these people, and I'd be all like giddy going, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. I have all their books. I can't, you know, and kind of fangirling a little bit myself and being nervous and intimidated. I get there and they're total fucking assholes. And just like, you know, the blue M&M treatment, where they're like, I need this in my green room, and all these like rules, and then they don't participate. Like, I've had speakers at my own conferences that only show up for their time spot on the stage, and then they like would leave, not participate in any of the dinners that we had or any of the like debriefings, so we can have like a synergy on how we're gonna flow together or with the crowd or people, or, you know, being there for Q&A or anything. And I'm like, those are the people, those are the speakers I would never have back. I would go back and like burn their books, and I'm just like so disappointed. And it's literally like, I can't even like be in a conference with you anymore. I've like unsubscribed, and
there's no resonance there.
it's sad to be let down.
The saddest part about, because I've had the same experience, and where I used to like somebody, and then I see who they really are behind the scenes or at a conference or something, and I'm like, oh. But the sad part is, like, you look at what they're preaching, and they're living an exact contradiction opposite of what so much of they're preaching. So they're hypocrites too, on
Right.
top of that. And you're like, wow, this person is preaching this, and then they're living the exact opposite way. But so many people, all they see is what they present to
Well, it's
on the
easy.
camera, or whatever, and
Yeah.
they think that's who they really are, and they have no idea.
It can be like the behavior, I think, is reflective of like maybe what you're in contact with, whether it's like an alien or like a higher spiritual being. Because like just speaking from my own experience, like I'm human, so there's been times where I'm like super pissed, and it's like I'll go complain to my alien friend or whatever, and it's automatically projected back to me that it's my issue, my problem, like so there's something within me that needs to be healed. And I think that's why, like as a collective, for like the entire human race, we're trying to do that for each other. And so yeah, and I think it can be hard to accept like personal accountability, responsibility, and so the more that we encourage that, we can manifest higher dimensional friends or whatever. But I think too, if you're given information that goes back to the message of like Jesus Christ, like his message was that like I'm made in the likeness and image of God, but so are all of us, and we're all equal. And maybe he was like getting messages from aliens, I don't really know, but the message was always that like we're equal and brothers and sisters in Christ. And then I personally think the cabal kind of messed it up and made him into this savior. Yep. And that's where the message gets twisted, like he was anointed or he was chosen, but really he was just like other people. So I think, that's kind of how I look at it too.
Well, even if, like Aaron said, even if someone isn't living in integrity with their message, it doesn't mean you have to throw out the message, because there's maybe their book is fantastic, but just because they don't live their life that way doesn't mean that information isn't valuable.
Right.
True.
So you have to use discernment there too, and then just take their message, but you don't have to like follow them,
and I
or be around them.
One of my theories is I think the universe does that intentionally, so you separate the message from the messenger.
And also, I agree. I think too, not just with the message, but with the person. I think it's on purpose too, not necessarily the person doing it, but so we don't follow anyone. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like we are let down on purpose because we shouldn't have put anyone up in that pedestal anyway.
Right.
You're giving your power away. It's the same thing.
And if you did, then that's your own fault, and it's your own lesson.
Kind of like your nephew. It's like, that's not my problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. I'm gonna tattoo that on my arm. That's not my problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So Lisa, okay, I'm going to do 2 more questions, and then we're over time, but I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more. As Lisa's wondering, what does everyone think about observers? At first I'd see them in meditation throughout the day, definitely look like us. Curious, who do you think they are? Do you also see them? Not scary or threatening. Thank you, Lisa. That's a good one. All of these are really great questions, by the way. You guys are freaking amazing.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, go on out, Tyler.
You go ahead. I've been talking a lot. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, for me, I'm reading the books by Paul Wallace, which I highly, highly recommend. Guys, I recommend him on your show. Just to throw that out there. Do you know who Paul Wallace is? He has the show.
Yeah. He's awesome. He's amazing. Yeah.
Well, Sharnael and I have had him on before. He's based in Australia. He's British, but he's based in Australia, so it's a bit of a time zone issue. But he's written 3 books now, really, really deconstructing kind of like the Old Testament narratives. He was a priest. That was his job, and he's delved into it and realized, you'd have to read his books to understand. But he brings in a lot of things about the Book of Enoch, and obviously he shows that the watchers and the observers are the same thing. It's the same word, just essentially. So the watchers of Enoch, the ones who kind of came to steward humanity, are the observers, because aren't they called observers in the Anunnaki text, the tablets? I've got that right, I think.
Yeah,
not 100% sure, but that sounds
right.
I'm
I'm sure that they're called the observers in the Sumerian texts, and they're called watchers in kind of the Enochian texts.
Okay.
But essentially they're the same thing. These kind of beings who have been, there was, again, it's like ancient war, isn't it? It's the whole we had these sort of extraterrestrial species fighting over humanity, and our kind of our role in the cosmos. So for me, yeah, I think there are kind of in hyperdimensional beings who are here just to observe our progression and to help us out as well. Are there negative ones out there who want to keep us dumbed down? Quite possibly. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but yeah, that's what I see as the observers.
I have a theory too. The book, The Thea Uber Prophecy, we did an episode on it, but it actually covers this in one of the chapters. You know, take it or leave it, but it's still valuable information. All information is valuable. So he is abducted to this other planet physically for 9 days and then brought back. But while he's on that planet, he is, you know, they kind of activate some of his gifts, and one of that is the astral travel, and they take him back to every one of his previous lifetimes on Earth, and he goes as an observer. And so he would show up, and even in certain cases, that in that past life version of himself would see like a spirit or something. They would sense that something was in the room with them, or it might even show up. In one case, they were meditating in this chamber, and he showed up, and they were aware of the presence, but that person had no idea it was their future self coming back to learn about the past lives. So whenever he was going back to all of his past lives, he was essentially the watcher or the observer. It was actually himself. So that might be another explanation for it.
I would just like tune into them and ask them, who are you? You know, like in meditation, because your brain, like how spiritual energy it communicates with everybody differently. And that's also why I think we get a lot of different answers, or maybe people get like, they'll use a name like the watchers or the observers, and you'll get 2 or 3 different ideas of what that actually is, because the spirit that's communicating with you is using something that's comfortable to your consciousness to understand the information. So it could be like, it could be anything. It could be something protecting you. A lot of times, like I see in meditation, like animals, because animals help me feel really comfortable. So it'll feel like I'll come forward as a spirit animal or something like that. So I think like the best person to know is you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, our last question is Chantel. Can I get your take, or you just want to ask Chantel? You want to ask the question?
Yeah, just what's everyone's idea on late language?
Ooh, yeah.
I have
Yeah, it's
Great
Yeah.
question.
whoever wants to take it, but I can answer that also.
Well, I don't know if you know, obviously Sharnael's the same. We've come out of kind of the Christian thing. Aaron's the same, I believe. And obviously, Aaron, you know, you got any experience with the whole speaking in tongues thing?
no, I was Baptist, so we didn't do that.
You didn't do that.
We
Okay.
made
I was
fun of that,
Baptist too.
actually.
Well,
I like-
I was highly evangelical Pentecostal.
Oh yeah, so you definitely.
So I mean, it was every Sunday at church was like everyone speaking in what we call tongues and stuff. I can do it quite fluently, like that. I don't know if you do, Sharnael. But yeah, it was always taught that it was like it was a gift of the Holy Spirit, that, you know, you would speak in a different tongue, a different language, and it essentially aided manifestation, and it connected you with God within, and it does have that impact. When you use this language, you can literally feel it, you know, affect your system. But when I was coming out of kind of the whole church thing, and I found out that kind of people do it as well who aren't Christians, I was like, what? It's our thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
And so I then discovered that a lot of people were doing it and call it light language. And one of my friends, I don't know if you guys know Derek Grosker, Truth Seeker, he has the podcast. And I asked him about it because, you know, he's well into this sort of stuff. And he's like, it's just the same thing. Basically, a lot of times, I mean, the Bible says if you speak with the tongues of men and of angels, What are angels? Extraterrestrials, multidimensional beings. So we can literally speak the language of our star friends. And very often, I think if we've come from these places, we will come with that language. And it's like an activation within that we can connect to our original language, and we will be speaking to our star friends. Our mind's going, what the heck are you doing? But it's from the heart. And it's like the heart burns when you do it. That's my experience anyway. I don't know if anybody else has got the same experience, and I don't want to come as a complete freak, but
No, that's interesting. I think it's true. I have a completely different theory, but I think it could be also happening simultaneously. So disclaimer, you guys can just, leave the meeting if you want after I say this, but I got this download on a mushroom trip. So
Nice.
I've done them too, don't worry.
but it was something very profound, and I really think there's something to it. The light language right now, the light codes, I used to get when I first going through my awakening, I would receive this light language downloads in the middle of the night. Like I would see them, I would literally wake up and I would close my eyes again and I would see them like entering my consciousness, just like page after page after page of all these symbols. I had no idea what it meant. And it would happen so much. I was just like, what the hell? Then I learned about light language and like, what is this? So then I started, I realized that we start hearing about everything's a simulation or it's a holographic universe. And the CIA even has documents declassified to prove that on some level, which if they know it, then it's not so much of a theory anymore. There's really something to that. But then I started, well, how is it a simulation? Because everything's so real. And like, well, it's an organic simulation. So meaning that just look at the earth or the universe as a computer software, this blank, ready to program. And you, instead, like the movie Sims, you would put people here, building here, trees here, mountain here, lake here, river here. The same thing essentially was done with our planet by the blueprinters, who we call the blueprinters. They create planets, and it's all part of a simulation, but it's organic. They grow instead of being AI, right? So we get this, what I got in this download is that all the light language coming in right now is because Mother Earth is going through an ascension herself. And what that light language is the coding for our reality. Everything has coding, just like a computer has coding. So even the feelings and the emotions have coding. Happiness has a code, but it's in light language, and it's such a complex coding that it's not AI, it's organic, it's from spirit. So the downloads that everyone's getting in light language right now are actually upgrades to the computer program, to the simulation for our reality. So Mother Earth can ascend. That's why so many people are starting to speak. They don't even know what it is. People are getting downloads like I did. No one knows what it means. They just know it has, like, it's about feeling into it. But I think it's essentially upgrading our reality.
It's probably activating dormant DNA as well.
And activating, yeah, exactly. It serves multi-purposes.
I agree with it, yeah.
And I also think, like Craig said, sometimes it is the language also. We come from planets where you don't need to read or write and everything's instantaneous and it's downloads or it might be a language like that. So you might be reconnecting to that also, which would be, I guess, closer to source than where we are now. But ultimately, I think it's like the coding for our reality. And right now we're receiving a massive upgrade.
Yeah. Totally agree with that.
I think like that's all like super interesting, especially what Craig said about it coming from angels. Like when I've heard ET language, like when they actually speak it and it sounds like different tones and it's like tones and vibrations. And I think the symbols come from because they'll use, this is kind of obvious, but I'm trying to explain something that I don't really have words for, to be honest with you, but it's like the different tones and vibrations, they can mean like a symbol, or they create a symbol, like it means more than one word. Like one word doesn't have a meaning, it's the different tones in the mix of vibrations that mean a concept, if that makes sense. Right. So it's like they can communicate concepts with like frequency and vibration instead of just using our language, which is like, one word means this or one word means that. And I think that's why a lot of people like, and sometimes it can be ringing in the ears because it's frequency, tone, and vibration. And then people will receive a download of a concept, basically. Yeah. And I think Um,
And some things are above our decibels of being able to hear. Like
Yeah.
dolphins can hear things that we don't hear, dogs can hear things we don't hear. Doesn't mean it's not happening and that we're not absorbing or getting trained into it, but it just means we're not at that decibel to even get in there.
yeah, like I would
Right.
agree with that. Like the love, like the light language, it doesn't sound exactly the same. Like I can tell what people are doing, like, but it's in earth tones, and like these tones are like different. It's like out of this world, like something we don't have here at all. I don't
Awesome.
even,
Yeah.
I don't know how that's possible. If someone could invent like an instrument to like create those tones, I think like we'd all be healed
Yeah.
because it sounds really nice, but
Right.
I'm just curious. Does anybody like? I don't know. A show of hands. Can anybody do it? You know, does anybody? Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant. That's
I've-
really cool.
I've started, well, I've done it for a couple decades. You know, my
Mhm.
history is kind of like yours in the
Yeah.
on fire kind of church setting, but then pulled out of church because, well, you all know why. But I give sound baths and I play music, and lately it's just coming out, and the response has been really, really great from everyone, you know, there. But I can't explain it, you know, you can't explain.
Yeah, it bypasses
Just a
your
feel,
logical
it's a
mind, doesn't
feeling.
it?
Yes, that's a
Yeah,
good way to say it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would encourage, if anybody wants to, if it's something that appeals to them, just ask. Just ask. Like, I choose to experience this, and it just flows. It's effortless, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not something that's going to overtake you,
No.
that you're just sitting there and you're not able to stop yourself from doing it. It's just you have to make the first step, and then it just sort of comes. But hey, Candace, how are you? So, well, that we have gone over like 25 minutes past what we were going to do, but on the 30th, we're going to be back for our next meeting, and it's going to be more specific to teaching about frequency trauma and how to move trauma out. And it'll be just a private group. We might just have this many people again, or we might have even less. I don't know, but I posted it in the group, and you guys are all invited to come back for that. I have I'm going to be announcing the winner for November's free scan as well on that date. And then we have 2 or 3 different things coming up next month, as well as Laura Eisenhower will be with us, where we're going to do a session for readings, prophetic readings and or astrology. That's going to be kind of a mix. So that one's going to be fun. So I just really want to thank you guys so much for your support to keeping the channel going. And you know, we do this for you, with you. You know, we're all doing this together. Without you guys, we wouldn't have the show or be able to keep going. So thank you for allowing us to keep going and keeping the content to share with so many people. What does everyone want to program in the water today? Does everybody have something to drink that we can program? Does anyone have an intention?
Yeah, we'll just program it with our highest timeline.
Our highest timeline.
Yeah. Boom.
I love that. Let's drink. Anybody cheers to our highest timeline?
Cheers.
Let's drink it
Cheers
down.
to our
30.
highest
I don't
timeline.
have one.
That pretty much covers abundance, health, partnership. Let's drink to that.
Well, that's what I do. I try to do that every morning or before bed. I try to call in my highest timeline, whatever
That's a
that
really good one.
whatever that looks like. And sometimes it doesn't look pretty because it means you have to let something go or whatever it is. But it's
Always for the greatest good.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Well, and before we go to Journey of Truth, guys, can you share about your conference? I want to make sure you can plug what's going on with you guys.
Thank you.
yeah, we're doing another conference. Everyone had a blast last year. It was very hard to choose the speakers this year. We had so many people who wanted to speak, and we had so many people we wanted to ask, but we came up with a lineup we think people will be happy with, and it's in Grafton, Illinois again, May 22nd through the 25th. We try to make it as affordable as possible. And with 4 days at a
Beautiful venue.
beautiful venue, a place that
yeah.
you would want to go spend 4 days at if there wasn't a conference. Anyway, it's just a nice little vacation getaway. And
Can I ask you a
yeah,
question?
you guys are all welcome. What?
Are you going to allow hugging?
Am I gonna what?
Are you going to allow hugging?
Oh yeah. Yes. Absolutely. We're going to encourage hugging.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to get something.
Yeah, you had to.
Yeah, hugging.
Hugging
everything.
is encouraged.
Well, that's
not-
actually what
yeah.
we're trying to use other conferences as a template and a guideline for what we want. We take what we like from other conferences, but we want every ticket to include the VIP experience and take that hierarchy out of it and that class system out of it.
No hierarchy.
Your ticket gets you everything that the event offers, that we offer. So nobody feels left out. You feel like somebody's better than somebody else, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
The only thing we couldn't include this year was the meal plan. We did that last year, everyone loved it, but food prices are so insane right now. If you want the meal plan, you got to pay for it separately. It's separate from the ticket price. But yeah, journeytotruthcon.com is the website if you guys want to go check out all the information.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Well, and your website and your podcast, and then Megan's podcast. I'm gonna let you share how people can find you and what have you.
Sure. I'm Megan Rose on YouTube, and then I also do readings and stuff and meditations on my Patreon channel, Megan Rose on there. And yeah, and I'm on Sharnael's show with Craig too sometimes, so you can find me there.
The amount of comments I'm getting of about the shows that we're doing, like of just how high vibe it is, like people will be like really upset or something and it lifts them up. It just works. It's really cool. Getting a lot of good feedback.
The Universal Law series was great.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. Yes. Craig, any final words, and remind everybody about your new channel too.
Okay. Yeah. I have like a meditation music channel. Again, it was a passion project. I did it over lockdowns because I was bored. And it kind of took off, but getting loads of views, but not many subscribers. So I'm kind of just asking if people could help me out and subscribe. I don't have a link for it at the moment, but I'm sure we can get that out.
What's
somewhere.
it called?
I'll put it in here. Ascension
Meditation. There's about 5 million Ascension meditation channels, but
that's what
that's the name of it. Ascension meditation.
Ascension meditation.
It was hard to find whenever I just plugged it in.
Gonna look that up. Just send me a link.
Why'd you come up with such a generic?
Change it. You can
Well, I thought Ascension because obviously I'm in a band called Empath Ascension. I thought, oh yeah, there's a link to that, so I did it. And then that was it. Then I thought I searched for it myself and I couldn't find my own channel. So
5 million. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe put like Ascension meditation of the Galactic Federation, or I don't know, add like
Yeah,
of
The greatest galactic meditations in history.
the
There you go.
history of the whole
Perfect.
world, of the whole universe or something.
Yeah. I could do that. Yeah. Can you change the name once it's out on YouTube?
I think you can.
Yeah, you
I mean,
can. You
or
can
just
always
put,
change
like,
it.
There you go. Craig's Ascension meditation.
Craig's Ascension
Craig.
meditation.
There you go. Let's see
I
that.
didn't want it to be about me, but
Craigslist.
yeah. No, that's a good idea. That, as if someone had thought of that.
That's genius.
Right.
That'll get some traction. Craigslist.
You should start
Oh,
spiritual
God.
Craigslist.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I love you guys so much. And again, November 30th, we'll be back, and lots of stuff coming in store. So thank you for your consistent support and love, not only financial, but your comments and just your expression and who you are, and just
I love
being
reading
your
them.
vibrant, beautiful people that you are. I just love this community so much and love hanging out with you guys. And this has just been the coolest. And thank you, Megan and Aaron and Tyler and Craig and all you guys for coming. They're not getting paid or anything. They just did this freely, coming just to support you guys and love on you guys. And so we
Right. And it's nice to meet everyone too. I mean, I know I
Yeah.
didn't actually meet you,
Yeah,
but
to see faces to the names. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Right.
Nice to see you all. Yeah.
yeah,
awesome.
hope we answered your questions.
Yes, have a wonderful
you.
day, everybody. And I am you guys, Craig and them, I'm going to send you a link right after this so we can hop on real quick and finish up what we were talking about. But have a great one. We'll talk soon.
See you soon. Nice to see you
Bye.
all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.